Right. Just going to send it. I'll bet you don't put your camera on. Live.
Yeah, just give me 1 second, James.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. James, can you see me?
Right.
I'm just waiting for
Just going to send it.
Yes, we can see your beautiful face.
Live.
Yeah, just give me 1 second, James.
Okay. All right, guys. So I am going to start letting persons in now, okay? Okay, and we are live. Good day, good day. All right. So, welcome everybody to part 2, all right, of our SDM Ambassador webinar. All right, I'm sure you guys remember last year we had a really nice one about the future of work. So, Alberta and I are back for part 2 for SDM 2021. All right, now this year we have a very diverse panel, and our topic is the digitalization of the economy. So, of course, who better to have on our panel this year than a bunch of experts when it comes to the digitalization of the economy, of course. So, first of all, we have Mr. Zwedi Hewitt. You wanna introduce yourself?
Thanks for having me. Yes, Zwedi Hewitt here from Trinidad and Tobago. Former national athlete, ran for Trinidad pretty much all my life. And then for the past couple of years, I started a technology company, which aims to support how people connect organically with peers and businesses, but also ease some of the financial burdens as relates to moving money that we have in the Caribbean typically. So you can check us out. It's called Luhu. Always pleasure to be part of what James is doing and supporting the OECS. So again, thanks for having me. Looking forward to a great session.
Very nice. Thanks very much, Zwedi. All right, don't forget everybody, by the end of this webinar, make sure you have downloaded his app. It's called Luhu. All right, he'll type it in the chat for you. Make sure you download it. All right, we need to get this going in the Caribbean. All right, next up we have Miss Samantha. Wait, so hard to say her name. Samantha Prashad.
Samantha Prashad from Guyana, everyone. And of course, we are more than excited to introduce Samantha as she's from Guyana. And she's the co-founder of Trifinity Solutions, which was founded in Guyana. And it's an information technology communications company. Samantha, we will be more than excited
in progress
if you introduce yourself.
No problem. Good evening, guys. James and Alberta, thank you very much for putting together this amazing program. I really love the topic idea. As Alberta would have introduced me, I'm Samantha Prashad. I'm actually the ecosystem developer for Trifinity Solutions, and it's a digital marketing company in Guyana. And I'm the former Facebook Developer Circle lead for Guyana. Also, I've served as the CARICOM Youth Ambassador and former Queen's Young Leaders as well. A part of this discussion, I'm very passionate to share this one with the other panelists because this is one of my baby. It's one of my topic area. And as an ecosystem developer, I also have an app that we developed to help entrepreneurs leverage technology within their business and information as well. Because, you know, in the Caribbean, we have a very high youth unemployment rate, and that is one of the areas that I've been using technology to solve. So you guys can check out Ikeneer on Play Store. Feel free to download it. Feel free to leave a review or so, right? Or you can check us out on Facebook as well. Thank you, guys. Looking forward to the conversation.
All right.
Fantastic. Thank you, Samantha. And of course, I am more than excited to also introduce Martin Hanna, who is the founder of Penny Pinch. Many of the St. Lucians would know what Penny Pinch is. It is an app to facilitate the payment, which we would payment of different services as well as goods. And of course, Martin, we were more than excited to have you here. When James and I first met, we were thinking of different persons to whom we should have invited, and we were so excited to have you. And Martin, we would be more than happy to have you introduce yourself to the rest of the public.
Very exciting words, Alberto. Thanks very much for having me. I really look forward to this. For those who don't know me, my name is Martin Hanna, CEO and co-founder of Penny Pinch. And you know, we've got the chance to welcome St. Lucia's very own mobile payments wallet, which allows persons to do, you know, money transfers between Penny Pinch users, or maybe pay businesses, pay your bills, everything for one app. So really excited to discuss it with, you know, these amazing panelists and guest speakers, and I'll take it from there.
Thank you, Martin, kindly. And last but not least, we would like to introduce Miss Eldra Ferguson Mackey. You may correct me if I'm incorrect, but we know that you are one of the managers for Uniformer in the OECS. And of course, Miss Mackey, we would be more than excited if you introduce yourself to the rest of our audience this evening.
Hi, good evening, everyone. No, I won't correct you. I think you're fine. You got Eldra right, so that's a start. So thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Eldra Ferguson Mackey. I am the head of marketing for the OEC. I can say that I'm very excited to have this conversation. The best way to describe me is marketing meets technology. My background is in telecommunications. I've been in the industry over 15, almost 16 years, pioneered technologies in the Bahamas, mobile wallets, something that Martin is very, very familiar with, 2G, 3G, 4G, 4G LTE, fiber to the home, IPTV. So really feel great to have a conversation. I've been immersed into retail marketing for the past couple of months, so it's nice to cross back over into familiar territory. So looking forward to the discussion.
Okay, thank you so much, Miss Mackey, is that correct? Mackey. Okay, thank you so much, Miss Mackey. And of course, James was insistent on us recommending you as one of the speakers for this evening.
Very much so.
And, and of course, we're more than excited because this last year we had a wide range of panelists. We had an entrepreneur, we had an international trade specialist, an economist, as well as an ICT specialist. And this year we are calling on information technology specialists, which is why James had highly recommended Miss Eldra. I recommended Samantha Prashad. Zwedi is, of course, an SDM ambassador, as well as Mr. Martin Hanna. We would be discussing, obviously, what it is and how do we see the economy really digitalizing itself and really developing in the next few years. And of course, we know that the panelists this evening would have a lot to contribute to what we are expecting later this evening. Before we begin, we would just like to thank the OECS Sustainable Development Movement. We would like to thank Ms. Lisa Taylor Stone, who has assisted us in facilitating this event. And of course, we would also like to thank the OECS Commission, who have been part and instrumental in this event. And of course, we would like to thank our Director General, who is Dr. Didicus Jules. So this evening, more or less, what we would be discussing is the Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 Sustainable Development Goals, but this evening we would be looking at technology and how it is that we would be using technology to really push our region forward in terms of sustainable development. And most importantly, it's important for us to look at how it is that our region will look at technology in terms of really pushing the region forward, because we know that there's a need for technology leapfrogging, which has been a discussion for the past 10 to 15 years, perhaps, in terms of our region really lagging behind. And we really hope that the panelists this evening would really assist us with those discussions in terms of pushing our way forward for technology. James, is there anything that you wish to add this evening?
Just really again, apart from our topic, again, as you mentioned, our focus always with all of these events is to push the sustainable development movement and the event which is coming up. All right, so towards the end of the presentation, we're going to be showing you a video showing you more about the SDM, and we will also be, just giving you some more information about how you can register for the SDM coming up at the end of September. Okay,
fantastic. So we're going to start with our panel discussion this evening. So basically, we have spoken about what the digitalization of the economy is, which is, of course, the economy moving forward in terms of using technology. And we have seen that a lot of economists have been stating that a lot of economies have been moving forward because of a lot of technological and innovation development. And so we would like to discuss that in the Caribbean environment and in terms of how we expect to see the Caribbean in the next few years. So, of course, we would move on to our first question, which is, how do you see technology affecting the economy in the next 5 to 10 years? And of course, we would start with Zwedi.
Good question. So, how do we see technology impacting the economy in the next 5 years? In the Caribbean, I think, firstly, technology is going to impact the global economy, right? However, how does it impact the Caribbean? I think that goes into a bit more as well, ties to our leadership. So, it's been sort of like it's a bit twofold. Because the technology is there, it is relevant, it is highly relevant, but we need to have sort of like a structure that is in place that would be ready to adapt and adopt the technology. So I can say this, technology is going to impact the global economy, but how do we adapt to the changes in technologies as a nation and as the leaders of our nation is what really going to drive the adoption and the scale of technology in the region and how it impacts the economy. But from a general perspective, I think the way the shift is heading is towards, highly digital, everything as relates to transactions, payments. You would think that fintech and financial technology, for example, when it relates to money, but it relates to so many different aspects of the economy. It relates to insurance, it relates to health. So I think that from a holistic perspective, the technology would be of massive impact to the region once we allow it to be. But however, if we do not accept it, I think that we could definitely fall way behind. So it's a pretty broad sort of like statement that I'm making, but technology is moving so fast and so rapidly and changing literally every month, every 2 months there's new technology. So I think that the strong question is, how do we more so adapt to these or integrate these evolutions in technology into our current systems? Because we have been so fearful typically of what technology could do, but I think that once a lot of the folks understand a lot of the benefits and the ease of access and how much it can actually help, I think that there will be a lot more of a willingness to accept it. But technology is going to transform our lives of how we do it there in the future. There are going to be robots doing jobs for people. We see it already in California. There's going to be drones delivering products. There's going to be more of a cashless society. There's going to be cryptocurrency. So we having banks, for example, in Trinidad and Tobago now, they are adopting or moving towards cryptocurrency. Trinidad and Tobago is contemplating adopting CBDCs as central bank digital coins. So I think that the future is bright, and technology is changing ever so rapidly that it's just really for us to try to keep up as best as we can, but also make it in a relevant manner that is relevant to the Caribbean. So not every technology that is relevant to, let's say, the developed world might be relevant to the Caribbean. So I think that it's just for us to kind of pick and choose what technologies would be relevant to our particular region and have them integrated in a manner that is time and cost effective, because you don't want to integrate it too late because you just lose the effect. So I hope that answers your question a bit, but it was just more of a generalized statement I was going with that, just directly answering the question.
Thank you so much, Zwedi. And I noticed that you really emphasize on the need for payments to be digitalized. And I'm really hoping that the rest of the panelists will also emphasize on the need for payments and how it is that they see payments being digitalized and us moving forward in terms of payments being better facilitated via technology. And so with that being said, I would also move on to Ms. Samantha Prashad, who is the founder of Trifinity Solutions, as I had indicated, in Guyana. Samantha?
Thank you very much, Alberta. As it relates to the impact that technology will be having in our digital landscape in the next 5 to 10 years, as you can see that COVID-19 has rapidly changed a lot of the things that we are doing in terms of business, in terms of health, in terms of our daily life. It almost seems like we have to use technology to connect for almost every single thing. If you go to the supermarket, if you want to shop online, you want to buy some product from another country, you can be able to view almost at real time at this moment. One of the challenges that I foresee that we're going to have in the Caribbean, as my other colleague mentioned, is leadership. I think we need to have the necessary infrastructure to actually facilitate the adaptation, because you notice that during the time that COVID hit, a lot of students do not have access to technology to study online as well, because we obviously have a bracket with poverty and all of these things, access to education. We still have those challenges that is right in front of our face, and they're growing even much more in statistics as the day go by. So we have to be very mindful of that as well, because one party is left behind and one party is moving forward, right? So this here, as I look at it, we are having a lot of transformation right now, no doubt about that. Augmented reality, virtual reality is taking over the space. A lot of payment platforms have just start popping up as well. People want to have ease of use. And I think our governments, our leaders, CARICOM has a very great opportunity at this point to initiate that single market opportunity and even have our own currency. This is a time that we can realize those types of vision that was coined about 30, 40 years ago, but we can do it digitally this time, because I believe these institutions have the political power more so to bring forth these necessary change. But of course, we have challenges when it comes to funding and leadership and all of that. And sometimes I think that we also have leaders within those capacity that certainly do not see some of the vision that our young people are seeing and can push forward, because most of the time we are adapting, our young generation are adapting to the technology, and we are more so more so comfortable with it. It's like the click of a finger, and the coming generation is even much more faster. So we are going to see drastic change happening within the next 5 to 10 years. The next generation, they are going to come in like a wave, right? And they are going to make it happen, whether our political leader like this or not, right? They're going to make it happen. That is something that I foresee. within our digital economy.
And indeed, that is a very valuable point. And of course, Zwedi also made mention of payments. And I think that is where Mr. Martin Hanna, who is the founder of Penny Pinch, will ideally come in terms of where he sees the economy going. Because obviously, payments is an instrumental part of facilitating the development of the economy in terms of us ensuring that, of course, if it is something that you want, there is some platform that readily makes available something at our fingertips. And of course, Mr. Hanna, we would just like you to contribute in terms of what it is that you think is necessary for us moving forward for our economies, particularly in terms of payments, and how you see the economy in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think for me, and especially in the financial services industry, we're going to see a lot of catching up. So the Caribbean has been known to kind of be a little bit back in time when it comes to technology, especially around payments. And I think with the realization of COVID, it's really changed how fast we as people have started to now realize that, oh, we're backwards. And that has really pushed for innovators to come around. And as someone would have mentioned, there's a lot of new payments platforms popping around. And I think the next 5 years will really catch us up to, first world countries in regards to payments. And not only that, but I also see a shift in the types of leaders that we have, especially those that are more younger and those that are more involved in technology. So I see the next 5 years being probably one of our biggest growth spurts when it comes to technology and payments.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Hanna. And with that being said, particularly in light of payments, we would also like to invite Miss Eldra Ferguson Mackey. I hope I said it correctly this time around, as she is the OECS Head of Marketing for Unicoma Limited. Ms. Mackey, if you can just add to that and how it is that you see technology really affecting us, particularly in light of not only payments, but our economy in the next 5 to 10 years.
Thank you. I think a better question would be how it wouldn't affect, because there's so many ways in which technology will affect the economy. If I were to start off with marketing, I think for us it's a good thing. So if you are a marketeer or if you are in any field where you need access to customers, I think what technology will do is drive access. We're going to be able to collect and get more information. Of course, that means as businesses, especially if we have entrepreneurs on the call, you're going to have to make sure that you set up your systems to be able to collect data on your customers so that you're going to be able to target your customers more precisely. For us, it's also going to allow us to understand customers' needs and wants and really use the analytics to determine behaviors and patterns and what they like and how they like to be communicated to and with. So it's really going to drive that deeper connection. People say that we've shifted away in marketing where persons attracted themselves to brands because, that brand was popular, that brand was top of mind. Now consumers are moving towards brands that develop a relationship with them. And I'm sure we all have familiar occurrences online. You go and there's a pop-up page, Chico's is selling this, and Taylor has that, Apple has this, etc. So that's an example of really, really smart brands using the information to target customers more specifically. But I kind of want to dovetail back to a little bit of what Samantha said as well. And I think for me, particularly because we have such a young audience, I'd really like for us to open a discussion around innovation and technology, us having to use the technology to drive shifts in policy. If we do not start to advocate as young leaders and petition leaders to change and shift policies, what technology is also going to do is it's going to create a bigger divide between the haves and the have-nots. The persons that have access to internet, they have access to broadband, etc., and then you will have the persons that don't. And I think one of the things that COVID did was show us that. So we had issues with education, we have issues with multiple platforms because people did not have access to that. So that's another discussion topic for us. How do we drive or use the technology to drive the shift in policy particularly for the OECS and the Caribbean? Because if we don't, then we're going to be
Uh, Thank you, Ms. Mackey. That's a very good point because I think technology is a very key part of the development of the economy. And you made a very fundamental point, which is the inequality that exists with technology. I mean, during the pandemic, we heard of the mass difference, not only between the have and the have nots, but between 1% of the entire economy, the global economy, and the rest of us, which included Mr. Mark Zuckerberg, when we heard about not only Mark Zuckerberg, but Mr. Elon Musk and all the others who have increased significantly in terms of their financial net worth while leaving many people behind. And I hope that we actually touch on that topic as well, because policy, as you said, is fundamental and instrumental in ensuring that we as Caribbean people, not just Caribbean people, but the rest of us actually contribute and assist in terms of the development of technology in our economies. And with that being said, I would move to our next question, which speaks about how do you see technology really affecting the future of the current economy in the next few years? And I would go to Ms. Samantha Prashad to answer that question.
When I look at technology affecting us, almost everything that we do, it will affect either negative or positive. We will see a rise of bots and different types of automation of activities that could be considered as work or maybe leisure event as well. Also, we would have to look at the wheel of circle of the digital activities that will happen. There are about like 24. We'll have to look at things like digital emotions. These things will give rise. And if you to look at it right now, persons are actually hooked on technologies, right? They are actually becoming addicted. It's the new drug, right? Being the way how they use it and navigate the digital landscape. The other thing is with payment and all of that, we have to look at security. Cybersecurity will become a very big thing because our identity, our banking information, and so much more will be at risk as well. Within one click, someone can actually get access to your information if they're probably clever enough. We'll also have to look at the possibility of having the collaboration of financial institution and the now digital economy that we are having emerging right now work together to outline policies and infrastructure that will guide our usage online, because not everything is developed here in the Caribbean. And we have to look at sustainable approaches where we will move forward in a more legal manner or in a more safe way, because sometimes you can have attacks on systems, attacks on infrastructure that can be very malicious towards users. So all those things will have to be taken into consideration. It is very nice to think about us having a digital economy, but we also have to think about the infrastructure and the type of personality that can harbor in these spaces. Your information will be very powerful, even more powerful than ever before, because people can use those type of information to even track you down and to understand who you are and how you would react to certain things. So we will also have to be careful in terms of our location and the amount of information that we share online with people who are connected with us. So I think there in its sense, cybersecurity will become something that is going to be a big factor that we will have to take into very deep consideration. And there's going to be a lot of new digital jobs and skills that are going to emerge out of this digital economy, because there's going to be need for skills that does not require automation. It may require those type of skills that have emotions, that have cognitive abilities as well. So those are the type of things that we can look forward to. All right, thank you very much, Alberta.
Thank you so much, Samantha. And you make a very valuable point that we need to look at different skills in terms of the digitalization of the economy. We do know that with the digitalization of the economy, a lot of people would be left behind. And that has been one of the concerns of many countries, particularly the countries in the global north. Zwedi, considering that that will be a consideration for many of the countries, how do you see technology really affecting those in the global north, and what advice, as a founder of an app which has been founded by you and funded by Silicon Valley, right? How do you see us moving forward in terms of those who would be left behind in the Caribbean?
I'll start by saying this, right? One of my advisors is the best-selling author of a cryptocurrency book called Be Left Behind. It is what do you call it? It's testimony by billionaire investors, one of the biggest cryptocurrency holders in the world. His name is Steve Good. The book is called Be Left Behind. Actually, I'll do something cool. We'll figure out some way where we could get the emails who are on this call. I'll get a free copy of that book to everyone who is on this call, right? So he's a best-selling author on cryptocurrency called Be Left Behind, because people are going to be left behind and some people are going to make massive leaps forward. So from that perspective, when we think about changes in the economy, we have to consider GDP. What we calculate GDP by the means right now may not necessarily be the same equation in the future as, for example, when cryptocurrencies do get, let's say, a level of there's no flattening in it 100% anymore. It is going to be a part of our future. Fiat will always exist, but there would be a place for this digital currency for people to conduct transactions across the world, right? So what about this is a real fact. I just participated in a program. The same guy who wrote a testimonial for that book, Tim Draper. I just participated in an accelerator program by Tim Draper. He's a billionaire. He's a Silicon Valley investor. And he's also one of the largest cryptocurrency holders in the world. Back in 2012, he won an auction when they shut down one of those illegal black market sites. They had like 38,000 Bitcoin. He won an auction for he paid like $23 million for 38,000 Bitcoin back like 12 years ago. That equates to a couple $1 billion now. I think he has a crypto asset of 30 billion plus. This is the kind of investments that he makes. So he was the very first investor recently in Robinhood and Coinbase. He made a post on LinkedIn. He said at IPO price, he just 1,000x his money on his investment into Coinbase. He only 1,000x his money making billions of dollars, right? So these are guys who are into the cryptocurrency space, and these are guys who they're not buying it to flip it and sell it. So eventually, when this stabilizes, there is going to be a value to it that is stable, and their net worth can see a massive leap. I have a buddy, and right now I'm in Miami. He's from Trinidad. He was an early Bitcoin guy. Literally, my buddy here with me right now just had a meeting with him, and he was showing him cases of Bitcoins that he owns. Like you could have actually hardware for it. He's from Trinidad. He lives in Miami. He lives off of his cryptocurrency flips because he sold some of his assets. He lives off of that right now, and he has enough Bitcoin for his kids already. So you have guys who are doing this. So there are people who are going to take make quantum leaps forward. So I think that given the advice that my advisor gave me as it relates to cryptocurrency and sort of evening out the equation, the reality about cryptocurrencies is that you don't have to go out there and try to buy one whole Bitcoin for $50,000. The reality, however, is that it could be a storage asset, just like how you buy real estate, except that it's easier to buy. He said, literally, my advice would be if you don't really have the money, you can dedicate literally $100 TT of your month salary every month and just acquire a little bit of, and you just leave that there, just leave that. He says, just leave that there, leave that there, leave that there. So, I think that it's just a level of education that needs to be, spread across the region to understand that this is going to be part of our future, but also it is a easy way to create a asset portfolio. A lot of people don't have can't buy land, and when it comes to that asset, so I think there's an easy way to create an asset portfolio, and then again is a storage of wealth. So it's for you for us to educate people to understand what is coming in the future, where they're at right now, and how can we bridge some of these gaps to get them at least the education to make a smart decision on their choice. So right now people are making uneducated decisions. So with educated decisions, they can know, well, hey, do I still want to do this? Do I not? But at least you can make an educated decision. So the economy is going to be drastically affected, I think, over the next, and as she said, either good or bad. So I think that those who, the countries that again, leaderships move a bit quicker and a bit more agile in terms of spreading that education, but also making moves strategically into the space. They don't have to take the entire economy and go buy a coin. They can take a portion of it, and that is diversifying the country's investment portfolio. So there are ways to, I think that it could be done. And I think that the countries that move that direction faster will have at least a greater chance of being at a fair positioning within that scale of good or bad, So I think that, is something to consider because a reality of the future. And I mean, all of the wealthy people, even if they are not like maybe a Bitcoin holder, every single wealthy person has some sort of cryptocurrency just there because it's a diversification of their wealth, literally. So if they're doing it, if the wealthy are doing it, we should do it. That's how I see it as well. So that is the future, So.
Thank you so much, Zwedi. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, Zwedi is also, like I said before, one of our fellow OECS SDM ambassadors. He's also the founder of the Luhu app, LUHU. And recently he got funding from Silicon Valley. So ladies and gentlemen, feel free to check him out and also download the Luhu app on your phone, your mobile phone. With that being said, I would like to move on to Miss Eldra Mackey, in terms of what challenges she believes are faced in the Caribbean when it comes to digitalization and in terms of moving forward. Miss Eldra Mackey.
Hi, thanks. So I think I'd kind of like to go back to, I'd make 3 points. The immediate challenge is, and it may not be a challenge, the challenge is just another way of defining an opportunity. So I think we will have opportunities in terms of public-private partnerships. So we talk about access and we talk about opportunities. So we have, if you look at the stats, I think the Caribbean collectively, I think the internet, more so the broadband penetration rate is about 50%. There's an opportunity for companies, organizations, a lot of the broadband corporations and companies, they're private. They used to be government, but that's a whole other debate as to why we would sell or give away the internet highway or the access to the future, but they're privatized. But we need to find a way to go into smaller communities and give them access. So public-private partnerships between electricity companies, between the telecommunications sector, because we have to create access. If we don't create the access, we will not have a population that's going to be able to take advantage of all of the things that technology has to offer, and we're going to continue to remain stagnant. And again, we talk about the divide. There's also an opportunity in terms of the consumer and retail sector. So businesses, and if you have budding entrepreneurs and persons that are about to start and venture into a business, you have to think about the way that you're designing your company. So we have to move away from the folder sheet, the papers, the books, and you have to create CRM platforms. You have to create platforms that you are going to be able to collect information so that you can understand your customers, so that you can create specific products and services that are targeted towards those customers. So it's no longer about who's first to market, it's also who's first to the customer, and reaching the market and reaching the customers, two completely, entirely different things. So you have to think about how you set up your infrastructure, how creative, how innovative are you? If you look at the internet, there's so many people trying to talk to, businesses trying to talk to so many people, how are you going to differentiate yourself? So again, there's an opportunity in terms of raising the bar for service. Access too. We have this now, an instant gratification. We have the internet and technology has created the instant gratification culture. So when you're thinking of designing and developing models for your business, what are you going to do to meet and exceed the needs of customers? So we have to think. And the final point that I'm going to make is education. So we talk about the diversification of jobs, and we talk about all of these opportunities that are going to drive innovation. But we also have to go back and look at the our school systems. How well defined and how much are we putting into the educational system so that we can get persons ready for the wave of the future and these jobs and innovation? How many people are we training in robotics? How many people are we training in AI? Do we have governments actually actively looking at creating institutions, technology institutions in the Caribbean that's focused on getting a group of young people or people ready to pursue these jobs? So it's a lot. And I know it's really very exciting to talk about technology, and we look and we see the ooh and the ah and the whys. But I think we have a lot to do in terms of policy, in terms of infrastructure, and in terms of access to be able to collectively take advantage of these opportunities.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Mackey. And I'm also seeing Jesus' husband's comment in terms of penny pinch. And how it is that he believes that policies would be instrumental in terms of facilitating technology in our economy. I heard Ms. Mackey specifically say the importance of policy by not only the private sector, but policy by the governmental sector in terms of us moving forward. Mr. Hanna, what do you think? What is your opinion in terms of policy being instrumental? And in terms of our economy, how important do you see technology in terms of playing an instrumental role moving forward?
So when you look at policy, it's actually a major thing in our side of the world, especially where financial regulation gets involved. And it is really one of the bigger things that enables innovation, because without policy, you can't launch your payment platform. You can't try to do this new innovative product. And I think that's really the first stage at which things should be changed. And it's actually getting there. I'm really happy to see that, at least for St. Lucia, they were really willing to give, us as Penny Pinch a chance to create innovation. And from that stemmed a whole new legislation guideline that is being approved. And, it also teaches the policymakers how to work with the innovators and create a balance between satisfying consumers and, keeping with the right policies and regulations. So I think we're going to see an open up to the policymakers, and especially who the policymakers interact with. Because in the end of the day, the policies are created for the innovators. And I think striking a balance between working with the policymakers and the innovators will open up a lot for the region, especially in my side of the world where financial services are involved. In terms of challenges, I would say, and Samantha really brought this up, is cybersecurity. One of the biggest questions we get: how safe is my data? Is my card information going to be stored? What are you doing with my documents? And I think the awareness around, how general things on the internet work should be taught, especially within the educational system, because that's really where it stems from. And, from there, I see a lot of growth for our region.
Thank you so much, Martin. And I think, although it was not part of this discussion, I think what would be instrumental is in terms of us also discussing the GDPR, which is the EU GDPR, the General Data Protection Act, as it relates to protecting the data of individuals. And I'm hoping that at least we would be able to touch on that later on in this evening in terms of what our discussion will be. But I would want to move further in terms of what do you think the prospects are in terms of technology leapfrogging in the Caribbean? And so I would go to Samantha in terms of technology leapfrogging. Samantha, as a founder of Trifinity Solutions, what do you think the prospects are?
You're muted, Samantha. Just unmute yourself.
I'm sorry, guys. So leapfrogging into the future and looking at some of the things that is in front of us. One of the things that I think that's gonna really propel a lot of change as well is digital intelligence, and tying back to the sustainable development goal and moving forward to 2030 and all of that. We need to look at our income structure, basically using technology and application with also digital intelligence to help persons to earn an income, ending hunger. If we're looking at that, digital intelligence and technology comes in again. If we are going to look at goal 3, health and well-being, looking at health, we also want to promote using technology, digital intelligence, again, leapfrogging forward, achieving gender equality and all of these things. When it comes to our part of the world, a lot of women are basically being left behind. Education, we need to also ensure that there's an inclusive and equitable and quality education for both our boys and girls. We also have to look at digital citizenship. These are things that is going to, because of identity, your identity here, we're going to have things like digital citizenships. We're going to have jobs, as we mentioned earlier, and there are also going to be environmental changes in terms of how, well, we already start experiencing that, but in terms of how we interact, we see the rise of events platform that brings together community and people together. So looking at how we are going to get there, basically in the future, and tying back to the sustainable development goals, and some of the mission and vision of all of this is basically looking at some very simple things, is that we need to work together and we need to know exactly where we want to go and what is it that we want to achieve together as a community. I think that one of the challenge for us here in the Caribbean is that we mostly like to work in silos, and I think that's a very big challenge by itself. So moving forward into the future, I think we as a people need to adjust and adapt and come together and work very much to achieve some of these goals when it comes to using technology, because we are going to have to sensitize the next generation on the dangers. We're going to have to be the generation that build upon innovative solutions that is going to require a lot of AI, digital intelligence, analysis, and so forth moving forward. I think that's pretty much my contribution.
Thank you so much, Samantha. And as I indicated earlier, Samantha is not only the founder of Trifinity Solutions, but she's also an OECS SDM ambassador, like myself and Zwedi. I noticed that Samantha particularly mentioned the need for inclusiveness in terms of education and technology. And with that being said, I would like Ms. Eldra Mackey to really comment on how she sees technology really including those who have been left behind, particularly women, because the statistics have shown that women will be the ones who will be left behind in this technology leapfrogging aspect of our economy. So, Ms. Mackey, I really value your opinion in terms of technology leapfrogging, and how do you see women really playing an instrumental role in that? You muted.
Yeah.
We're just reminding you that you're muted.
Sorry, I said I was just about to do a count of the women on the panel and check mark that and say, you know, the first box is checked off. I think the sustainable goals, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's 10, where it speaks to inequality. And one of the ways it says that we reduce inequality is to provide access to information. And the role the technology plays basically access to information and the ability to share. I think one of the panelists mentioned prior to when you needed to look up something, we probably had to pick up a book. I think one of the beautiful things with the technology platform and reducing and eliminating inequality, inequality in sexes, inequality in so many, we have so many divides, whether it's a racial divide, whether it's sexism, everything else. I think it's information. And I think the information, the sharing of information is actually twofold, and everyone owns a bit of that. So it's us sharing information when we see innovation, when we break through as women. And that's something that we don't like to do. That's a whole other panel discussion, but it's a sharing of information and making sure that information is available. The other way is the collective responsibility of us. We have to be able to open ourselves up to innovation, invite, not to be afraid of different things and embrace differences in other people. Education, we spoke to that before. So there's really going to have to be a shift in the curriculum. The curriculums that we have now, unless it's a special school or oftentimes private schools, we don't see where we're bringing in technology. We don't see where we're providing that the education in terms of how to, the what, the where, and we don't see where we're shifting the paths in terms of career paths in schools. So again, technically, the ideal career to have is still a doctor or a lawyer. You know, I'm still not seeing enough engineers. I am a girl in ICT. I still don't see us putting enough of the sciences and technology classes in school. I don't see us bringing enough women into the engineering field, into the science fields, et cetera, and making sure that we expose them to that information, the access to information. In the Caribbean, we see it differently. When we go some places in other parts of the region, we see this great inequality. And I think, again, it's a collective responsibility, but it all starts with information, access to information, and making sure that we decrease the divide, and that digital divide, meaning how do we get the information to areas that don't have it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mackey. And with that being said, especially in terms of the technology divide, I would like to turn my attention to Zwedi. Zwedi, with that being said, particularly in terms of the divide, not only in terms of gender, but in terms of race as well, what do you think are the prospects, not only for technology leapfrogging, but what industries do you think are instrumental, not only in closing the gap, but also in facilitating the digital revolution, which has been termed the fourth revolution of our time?
Well, definitely we'll need to develop a workforce. I was going to describe it, a workforce of experts in what I would call modern technologies, which would be technologies that are still in sort of like developmental stage, but already proven concepts. So let's say AR, VR, mobile app development, blockchain, and have experts in those fields, so where we have actually like a workforce in each particular one of those sort of like, major brackets of technology. I think that would be really, 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 really important, as technology already it's an exportable service. So this is something that you've seen already. You see a lot of creatives now going into that space of design or whatever it is, but they're doing something on a laptop as opposed to going out and make cement. So it has become now a shift in terms of the services that are usually accessible, because a lot of youths now they have some folks who doing design for international companies and stuff like that. So he's already exporting services through technology. So there's going to be a massive shift in terms of the general services that are available, I think, maybe moving forward as the newer generations to come would be more so shifting towards digital services, because that as well gives them the opportunity to export their services, not just products, export services. That is something different. So I think that would be a major shift in terms of the industries. So that is something to take into consideration as well. So I think as it relates to the educational aspect and the divide, divide is I guess subject to divides, the same divides that currently exist. So I don't think that is necessarily related to technology. That is our cultural divides that we need to kind of sort out in terms of distribution of equality and opportunity, So I think that is a divide that we need to maybe solve culturally. So as well, it would impact the technology and how that is divided, right? But I think that the good thing about technology is that and the media, there is easy opportunity to make it accessible for all, for a lot of people. So I think that using the digital means to market would potentially be a good strategy in terms of reaching the masses. But yeah, I think that the opportunity is there for, I think, everybody to at least get to know about it. And, we figure out a strategy to empower the education aspect. And we have some ideas I could share behind the scenes that we're working on. So actually, I have been approved to be the lead for something called Draper Startup House. So Draper is founded by a billionaire venture capitalist called Tim Draper. Under him, he has like multiple funds. He has like probably like 10, 15 different funds. One of them is called Draper Startup House Ventures. And what Draper Startup House Ventures do, they operate in, I think, 16 different countries, different locations, and they either build or they partner with existing infrastructure to create an entrepreneurial and tech ecosystem. So if in some places, like in India, they bought land and they build an entire building and they create like a facility. In other places, they would have partnered with existing infrastructure, so hotels or maybe a motel or hostel, they would have invested to do some rebranding of a particular area, and that area would have been dedicated towards creating an entrepreneurial and technology ecosystem through hosting events and building a community, but also they allocating human resources towards the execution of it. So they would send like experts, like folks in the US who have the programs and stuff like that, they would come live. So we are setting up one in Trinidad to where we'd have a Draper Startup House. We are looking at potentially aligning with one of the top business hotels in Trinidad. Draper would be sending across HR team. So a couple of folks would be living in Trinidad to support us in terms of building and developing this technology and entrepreneurial ecosystem. And the idea is to create a funnel pathway that supports entrepreneurs with the resources to help them scale and be successful. So we have like Tech Beach Retreat. They are doing something amazing as well. But they were doing it virtually. So we're actually looking at potentially collaborating them because it's going to be a collaborative effort. And the idea is to create hubs across the region. So across not just Trinidad and Tobago, we have been approved to set up this and scale it across the region. So we're looking at creating entrepreneurial and technology hubs across the Caribbean region, setting up Draper Startup Houses where we would provide mentorship programs, we provide strategic partnerships, networking, travel across the Silicon Valley and that kind of stuff. But also, Draper Startup House Ventures has its own venture fund. So I am now able, actually, as of a couple of days ago, to refer companies that in the technology space that have sort of like big ideas. I'm able to refer them to the Draper Startup House Ventures to be potential investors once they are a member of the Draper Startup House Caribbean. So there are interesting opportunities that we are working on at present. So I think that these, at the end of the day, when we think of our Caribbean people, everything is still kind of brick and mortar. So I think that there needs to be something, even though we're doing technology, I think that in a once COVID, eases up a little bit, I think that a brick and mortar setup, and that is how major technology companies have scaled across the world. Google, Facebook, all of they would set up a hub in different locations and they would develop an ecosystem there and they would build a mass, So I think that aspect is still very important and relevant to our culture, even from an investor perspective. Having a physical something is important, and it makes. I think that is the missing piece. I think that is one of the key missing pieces. So I think that this is something that we have a potential solution to, and they're looking to support the entire Caribbean in terms of creating entrepreneurs who are creating businesses. So that is the plan. The overall mission of Draper Startup House is to create 1 million businesses across the world. And they already, they're 15 to 18 locations, and they come to the Caribbean.
Nice.
Thank you so much, Zwedi. That was a very important point. The need for creating partnerships and the need for us really facilitating and ensuring that technology plays a fundamental role in our economies. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to continue saying what I said, but it's important for us to know that Samantha, Zwedi, Mr. Martin Hanna, as well as Miss Eldra, Mackey, they are innovators in every single sense of the word. And in fact, these people are Caribbean based. These people were born in the Caribbean, and they are really very much pushing to have the technology play a very much instrumental role in the Caribbean. And with that being said, I would move on to Mr. Hanna. More or less, Mr. Hanna, I would like you to add on to what Zwedi said in terms of what benefits do you think that the Industrial Revolution brings, particularly in light of your experience for Penny Pinch?
Sure, no problem. So we were speaking about the challenges faced in the technologies and how people are being left behind. And I think what we as innovators need to do is actually build our technology around those people. We need to really think of who is the end user of our products, right? And what I see a lot of people doing in the region is they quickly launch a product, the product end up being bad, and then that puts a negative effect on the consumer who wants, they really want to innovate, they really want to change and transition, but the technology available does not want them to. And I think a lot of effort needs to put in being flexible in the type of users that we have. So you have your average tech-savvy user who's on their phone 24/7, knows how to do stuff. They're probably connected with a data plan. And then there's the unbanked individuals who maybe are not connected, don't have an internet. So it's about finding the right balance between how can we both create a great experience for those that have been transitioning and for those who also want to transition. And apart from that, it's also about, providing a great support system, because as much as we're still catching up to things, we need to be hand-holding, especially for those that really want to try to change, especially with COVID impacting them. So it's a lot of hand-holding, it's a lot of being flexible, and it's catering to who are these individuals that will be using the technology. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Martin. And with that being said, I would like to move on to Ms. Mackey. Ms. Mackey, what do you think, how instrumental and important do you think technology is in terms of really pushing the Caribbean forward? Adding on to with what Mr. Hanna said.
I think it's actually critical. I think important. Important is an understatement. I think technology is critical. It's critical because it's going to underpin the next generation of leaders. That is going to be the baseline. It's critical because it's going to teach us as a group of people how resourceful we can be. I also like something that Martin said. And it ties back to your point on innovation. We're gonna end up with a lot of innovators. And why I like what Martin said is one of the great things about M-Wallet, mobile wallet is that it can reach and it bridge that divide between the banked and the unbanked. Just because of the type of platform. So before, everything was designed and you must have, or you had to have computer access. While we may have very low broadband penetration levels, we have really good internet penetration levels, which means everybody has access to the internet, whether it's be through their laptops, tablets, etc. So again, looking at innovation. And why I like M-Wallet is basically, again, the cell phone, using your telephone to have access to banks, have access to everything else. So I think it's going to drive innovation. The other thing that I think why technology is so critical, because I think it's going to give us as a Caribbean region the shift that we need. And the shift that we need in terms of being able to take advantage of greater opportunities so that we can move our economies forward. However, that shift is going to only happen if we start to shift and rethink the way we go about business, and if policymakers and decision makers start to actually encapsulate and harness the energy that we have now and take advantage of it. So I think it's critical. I think it's going to be the difference between us being able to feed ourselves and take care of ourselves as an economy in the next 10, 15, 20 years. And I think the decision and when we act really needs to be now. It's good to see everybody harnessing the energy. It's good to see things moving forward so quickly. I tell you, even just 10 years ago, things like internet and broadband speeds. I don't know if people remember the BlackBerry and all of those things. It's just, you know, we've leapfrogged already, even though we may not think we have. We've moved from technology like 3G to 4G LTE to 5G. So we're leapfrogging, whether we want to admit it or not. I think the differential is going to be whether or not we decide to become a part of it, or if we're going to sit on the outside looking in as things pass us by.
Thank you so much. And I note that you also made mention just briefly of telecommunications being an instrumental part of assisting us in terms of technology leapfrogging. And despite the fact that we may not think that we have leapfrogged in the sense, we really have, because we have the availability of cell phones at our fingertips. But nevertheless, as you have indicated, Ms. Mackey, it's important for us to also ensure that not only that we are part of that technological revolution, but policy remains part of that technological revolution. And with that being said, I would just like Ms. Samantha Prashad to touch on what benefits, or rather what advice do you think this technological revolution brings to us in the Caribbean economy?
I think we're going to see a rise in disruption, a rise in innovator, a rise in new types of business within the economy. I also foresee that we're going to have a rise of mental health disorders due to the use of technology and the imbalances that some of these devices and technology can create within us as well. So I think one other thing that we can look forward to is having more connection at more real-time basis. We're going to have more leverage when it comes to blockchain as well. I think our decision-making process at a government level, at a community level, can happen through the use of technology. I foresee the rise of that as well. I think that we're going to also have internet parenting happening, an e-health app. There's going to be a rise of those type of things, e-medication and so forth, because with the rise of virtual health challenges, we are going to have those type of things emerging as well. So tomorrow you might see something happening. People are getting prescription over a system. So I believe strongly that those areas that I mentioned, those are going to be some of the rise that we are going to see in the future. Machine and bots as well, automation. We're going to have a lot of virtual reality, augmented reality, where commerce is going to basically utilize some of these realities to change perspective and to add to perspective and give users a new and different experience before actually buying the product. So you're going to actually experience the product virtually before you can purchase it. So like now how we're basically experiencing Amazon, we can also buy anything from Amazon at any time, any part of the world. Once we have a card, we will also see these try-ons and tryouts happening here and there when it comes to our business. So our gap in becoming more real and more connected with the technology will be not big, but it will become much more shorter in the future. And when it comes to education and all of that, as I mentioned earlier, we need to have our policymakers, and I can't stress more than this, we need to have our policymakers from the various political organizations basically doing their job, doing what they need to do at the highest level, because it is the political will that decide how people operate and how people are being issued with funding and resources um, to operate in a certain manner and fashion. So, generally speaking, I also believe that many times we as citizens need to not forget that we have the power in our hand. And with technology, a lot of, right now, a lot of young people are experimenting with different technology. And as they experiment with different technology, you know that our generation have a lot of power, because if persons like myself and Zwedi can interact with some of these multinational company from our base and bring those level of impact to our community without much involvement of government and all of these agencies, well, you know, we have raw talent here, and some of these talents are not recognized here, right? So we also need to recognize our own talent, because it is our own talent that is going out there and shining light out there to some of these innovation and technology. So I think we need to own our people, and we need to support our people as well, because the rise of the technology will require these innovators. It will require these people with the different level of skill set to maneuver this digital landscape and economy and ecosystem as well. So that's my contribution.
Thank you so much for that, Samantha. And of course, I would like to move to Zwedi in terms of what advice, particularly as a founder of an app, what advice would you give to young people in terms of the technological revolution and the labor force? What do you think young people should look at in terms of the future of work? Because the reality of the situation really is that as the economy stands, it would not be the same in the next 5 to 10 years, as we have discussed earlier. So what advice would you give, and moving forward, what skills do you think that they would require?
They would require, one, I think, a level of a creative mindset. I think that is important. So as it relates to especially innovation, and it takes a general level of creativity. So I think exploring the creativity would be important. But as soon as possible, as quick as possible, get involved with some sort of like digital trade. I think that is something that I, as a founder, I lack, and that is something that cost me either money, it would cost me partnerships, it costed me something because I lacked skill sets as related to building a mobile application. I was a non-technical founder. I didn't know. I mean, I had a college degree, so I knew basic things like documents and that stuff. But I don't know anything about design. I can't do Adobe. I can't use Canva. None of that. I can't. So if I could have bypassed some of those learning curves by having a trade in some sort of technology field, I could have saved myself some money. Or, I mean, as well, I could have potentially get a job. A real story, I have a buddy who, in my college, he was a world junior champion in track and field. I ran at multiple, I went to the CRIFTA, went to the Olympics, went to Commonwealth Games. He won world juniors, we went to college together. He ran professionally for a couple of years as well. And then he started being a coach, and he's like, he wasn't feeling fulfilled. He's like, this doesn't make too much sense. He took his life savings and did a coding boot camp in Silicon Valley, I think for 5 months. Came back out, and then he was making like 100+ K USD. He's actually one of my personal advisors on Lou, because he is a full stack developer now. And I mean, the opportunity, he works from home most of his time. He lives in Texas, but he works from home. So I think that as soon as you could, again, get a trade, a digital trade, and you practice it as a hobby. So I mean, it could start as a hobby, and if you get really good, you can monetize it. So I think that is the best strategy. But I have seen it. I mean, I think that the younger generation, they're smart, they're real smart. So you see people doing it already. There's a video editor and video producer, videographer and video editor. His name is Dane Padmore. He's from Trinidad. I think he's like 21 now. He dropped out of high school, self-taught editing on YouTube, self-taught videography, and now he's doing music videos he did for Marshall Montano, he did for Prince Swan, he's doing music videos for Nylam. All of our top stars, he's doing and editing. He's getting a couple international projects to edit and self-taught YouTube, and he's making money. That is his full-time job, you know? So I think that there are people who are doing it. So I think that, again, just generally raising the level of awareness of what is possible to digital services. I think that would be the best place to start, and having that service. I think that's the best place for I would recommend to youths. And I mean, if they can make some money, even better yet. There was this program I just participated in. There was a youth man. He was 17 years old. His older sister was part of the program. He's 17. He just bought a Tesla. His parents had to co-sign on it for him. And he started by trading stocks on renewable energy, and started. I mean, he was literally taking his hustle money, and he flipped it, and he 17 years old, bought a Tesla. So I think that there are opportunities out there. It's just, bridge education and let people find what they're interested in, and go from there.
Well, thank you so much, Zwedi. And of course, with the improvement of technology and the digitalization of the economy, more and more we will be seeing a move away from traditional professions such as the legal profession, the medical profession, and even the development of those professions in terms of telemedicine, legal advice being offered across borders and that sort of thing. And with that being said, Ms. Mackey, how do you see professions developing in terms of the digitalization of the economy?
So I think we've touched on this somewhat in terms of the need to shift things around first, because before we get to the professional path, we have to deal with the structure. I really like some of the points that Zwedi made, because I really think that, and I'm probably going to be flogged for saying this, we also have to move away from the traditional education and traditional careers. And when I say the traditional educational format, I'm simply meaning, English, math, PE, the basics. And we have to think that everybody is not conditioned probably to get an A+ in English literature or English, but they may be excellent in physics and science. They may want to do auto body repair, which will lead probably to some areas in engineering, etc. So I think we have to innovate. As we innovate in the educational systems, we also have to innovate on the jobs, and that's what's going to fuel different types of profession. So we and there's this evolving discussion about the digital employee experience, and that's largely driven by organizations' need to create new environments so that we create efficiencies, so that we push and promote accuracy, so that we make sure that we improve outputs, etc. And so the professions and organizations and the workplace really is going to shift, and that shift really is going to be dictated by the willingness of leaders, business owners, entrepreneurs to shift their operating models. So as uncomfortable as it is to say this, we are still a little bit legacy in our thinking. So we still go and we look for the clerk, we still go and we look for a filer, we still go and we look for an accountant. Nobody's looking for a programmer, nobody's looking, it's slim in the Caribbean. It's very, very slim to find those skill sets. And as an employer and a recruiter, I'm telling you that it's difficult. It's very, very difficult because we're not promoting it at the foundation level, which is in the school. And I say that because before I get to the profession, we have to make sure that we have a more solid foundation so that we promote the skills, so that we encourage people. And if we don't start to shift, and I'm not seeing enough of those conversations in the Caribbean, I'm not seeing the educational system talk about revamping and changing structures and changing curriculums and changing models. I'm not hearing enough from policymakers that say, I'm going to create these vocational institutions that will be, a substitution or that will actually support some of the other foundations. We really, really need to shift the conversation so that when it gets to someone like me in the workplace, or a recruiter or a hiring agent, I have a pool of talented individuals to pull from so that I can create some of the environments that we are discussing. So there's a whole lot that needs to happen. A mentor and my old CEO Diego used to say the true definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and coming up and expecting. So what does that mean for the career and the workplace? That's really going to be dictated and driven by some of the changes that we do now. And I think it starts with this generation of people and what we do and where we choose to go and how we innovate and how we shift from the normal pathway.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mackey. And with that being said, I would like to move to the questions and answer segment. And I would pass it over to James. I noticed that there are a lot of questions, particularly by Mr. Jesus' husband, who seems to be quite well averse in terms of the technology and blockchain in particular. So James, I would pass it on to you in terms of the questions and answer segment, and hopefully we can bring this very interesting chat to an end thereafter.
No problem. Yeah, first of all, let me just take one of the questions from Facebook. This is from Gloria. This is really to you, Samantha. She says, why did you indicate such challenges faced with technology? Example, mental illness and so on. What are some plans, though, to address this apart from PSAs? What is your proactive approach? What do you think could be done?
One of the things why I indicated this is because it's showing up in research. I did my thesis on researching depression using an algorithm as well. Another thing that I want to add to this is that these devices here have effect on our body. It has effect on our brain, our chemical balances, and so forth. And reading a research recently is saying that if we can sleep without the phone every night, it would do us good. It will increase our chance in living longer as well because of the radiation and all that goes on with the device as well. I think one of the proactive thing is to educate people and bringing more awareness on the mental health effect and impact on it. Social platform, right now, these things are releasing things like, I would say, a virtual dopamine that gets to people and it makes them react a certain way. Like some people, if they don't get a like on their photo, it impacts their emotion. If they don't get a follow, likes and follow are impacting business. They're impacting emotions. They're impacting people's decision right now. So that's one of the reasons why I mentioned that mental health is going to become a really big thing considering us going into the digital economy. I certainly believe that education is something that we need to start with navigating the digital landscape. And of course, I do not have all of the answers to this question because I am pure computer science. I'm not a medical person, but I'm giving you based on experience and I'm giving you based on research as well.
All right, very nice. Anybody else want to chime in on anything else you think that could be done? Anybody else? Okay, we'll take the other question.
Sorry, James.
Okay, go on.
I just wanted to add to Samantha's point, and I do think that mental health has to be considered. There's a saying that we have in the tech space, connected but alone. So as technology evolves and we drive technology, we're going to find that we are spending more time alone, not interacting. We're going to find different ways and means of connecting. So that there's also that driving for, that drive to loneliness. So you can do everything at home at your computer, which means what's the need or what's the necessity for going out? We're going to find that we become inactive. We're not moving around sufficiently. we're not doing some of the things that we need to do. Go to the grocery store. Why go to the grocery store when I can simply have my groceries delivered? So there's a physical and the mental health perspective, and there has to be that bit of a balance. We've all talked about COVID and the impact on COVID. So just look at that. Being isolated at home, we were still connected, but we were isolated from one another. So, while I too am not a mental health professional, I think that there's some things and there's some examples that we can look at in everyday life, and we can understand why that problem or that divide will exist. And it's something that we need to be conscious about and take note of.
Very good point. All right. Martin, this one is to you. From Jesus, he mentioned this before, like when you were talking about blockchain and crypto. He was asking, he would like to hear from Penny Pinch how you may be utilizing blockchain technology.
So
Just
blockchain
to add
on
to that, sorry, Martin, before you go forward, if you can also explain to our audience what exactly blockchain is as well, because a lot of people are ignorant of what blockchain entails and what it is.
I'm not an expert at blockchain. It is definitely a new type of technology, but I would say blockchain is just a new way of decentralizing things, which means that there is no central party that controls, what you or someone else does. For example, with Bitcoin, which is a decentralized blockchain system, it basically runs on networks of computers that is not controlled by one entity on the top. And I see, I'm not a major expert on it, but I do see a lot of growth for blockchain, especially when it comes to payments and even storing customer information. I think that is a really good way to look at how we could use blockchain in the real life scenarios.
Okay. Zwedi, you had a point?
Well, yeah, to expand a little bit further just on it, how blockchain can be implemented again is like financial technology, how that could be integrated into insurance. Blockchain could be integrated into almost every aspect of business. So you could be, for example, build a customs platform, an e-customs platform on blockchain that provides a level of transparency and level of security that is not necessarily there right now. So what blockchain really adds is a level of security, given that, again, it's decentralized, so no one can necessarily manipulate information. That level of security, and it can be applied to various aspects of business and different industries, from customs to health. There's a opportunity to build a health data information transfer on blockchain that is safe. So your classified information is safe transfer between doctor to doctor, and you could get a report like on your phone, and it's all done on blockchain, which is highly secure. So there are multiple applications of which blockchain could be used for. But again, it's still early technology. So even the blockchain users still figuring out blockchain, so but there are tremendous opportunities already that exist on blockchain. And for like youths and stuff like that, they can look at like NFTs. That is a future way for them to, well, that's actually a current way to potentially make some revenue. It have NFTs through digital artworks, which being sold for a lot of money. So these are some of the ways I think that blockchain could be explored. Well, it's still to be explored. So I think that look at it with an open mind and understand that it can be applied broadly, just like how the internet could be used broadly, blockchain could be used very broadly. So explore with an open mind, but it's still new technology that we all learn in.
If I could just add on to that, regarding cryptocurrencies and whatnot, we see hopefully in the future, being able to actually utilize that on Penny Pinch, so essentially using your crypto to add funds to your Penny Pinch wallet, and hence being able to actually utilize that crypto anywhere Penny Pinch accepts merchants. So I think going down the line as crypto and blockchain, comes into more demand, us as the innovators will just have more use cases for it. So I just really give it some time before it starts, moving around within the regions. And you're already seeing some islands that have executed on this. You're seeing some islands where merchants are accepting Bitcoin. There's Bitcoin ATMs, and there's nothing we can stop it. It's simply just going to keep growing, and it's how can we fit our new lives into this whole crypto and blockchain life.
All right, nice points. Let's take another question. We have one from Brandon. He asks, what is being done to create an effect with the policymakers? I know you did touch on that, Martin, with regards to the meetings that you are having, but also anybody else can chime in as well. Are there any collaborations being done with other NGOs and universities to improve the knowledge required? And if so, what is the timeline, because we are behind at the moment?
So one way we're currently using Penny Pinch, where NGOs are concerned. So we're actually looking at partnering with companies like the World Food Program, or governments that want to do disbursements to those that are in needy. And we're able to utilize Penny Pinch as that disbursement medium for funds, which is much more faster, convenient, and safer. So I see a lot of opportunity to partner with the NGOs. So for example, with the St. Vincent eruption, we ended up working with NEMO to use Penny Pinch as a donation party. And we're able to raise a couple of funds, and customers were happy that there's convenience now to be able to donate and get funds out to those in need.
Okay. Is it the same in Trini as well, really, with what you're doing?
Yeah, definitely. So there are opportunities to partner with NGOs, and Trinidad, well, I could speak for Trinidad, they're trying to move in the direction of creating these opportunities to partners with various state-owned entities as well. So I know they recently established a Ministry of Digital Transformation. So they have been pretty much open to exploring ideas of some of these opportunities to collaborate. They recently launched the FinTech Association of Trinidad and Tobago, where they work with different FinTech startups and stuff like that to help them help them get operational. So support them with different partnerships and connections, and get through the regulatory process that exists, supports them in that aspect as well. So I think that stuff is being done in Trinidad. The central bank also recently launched Innovation Hub in Trinidad, where they invite high-performing FinTech startups to be part of an Innovation Hub, where they work with them to support them in terms of getting their regulatory licensing and stuff like that to operate once legally, approved, of course. So I think that there's stuff that can be done. I think that it can be done faster, and they just I think I come up probably in the Caribbean, stuff just happened too slow. So I think that we just need quicker action. We need quick action because we still sticking and we still behind. So I think that quick action is definitely what just needed to be done. So that is the only thing.
Yeah. Samantha, is it the same in Guyana right now as well?
Yes, I would say so. And even when it comes to our security payment platform, we definitely need more in terms of development. Recently, they would have broke a 20-year monopoly on our information technology company when it comes to data, and this would generally give more access to people, different parts of the country, and data would actually be more cheaper. Where more persons can buy a plan even more so per month. They're going to be access, fiber optic cables are going to be installed in certain ranges where persons can access government Wi-Fi from government locations, institutions, and so forth. So I think there's some level of improvement that is happening on the ground with policymakers. I heard my Prime Minister talking about artificial intelligence. And that was a big surprise to me, is seeing that our policymakers are getting their feet wet, not just with the terms, but also looking at how is that we can expand in community. There been a lot of training that is happening within the innovation department, going to various regions, training persons in different and various ICT skill development. There have been more drive towards women empowerment as well, when it comes to business, starting a business. So they recently launched a women's institution, so that persons, if they feel the need to start a business, a woman can just walk into the institution and access support. If you ask me, when it comes to the development of our institution, merging all of these with the key players and stakeholders within this ecosystem. I'm not sure about the communication, but there have been a lot of investment from the University of Guyana, bringing in new institution, fostering collaboration within the oil and gas sector, because oil is becoming something here in Guyana, and technology will help to bridge the gap in some way or form. So I think with that being said, payment platform is still a big thing here. We have MMG. Up to today, I was looking on my timeline, a young lady couldn't access PayPal. She couldn't get payment from PayPal once you're living in Guyana, because we have some of the barriers here with some of the payment policies and all of that. So I think those things need definite improvement, and I think this is a time for our region to come together between CARICOM and the OECS to look at some of the challenges that these countries are really facing, because this is a time where our leader needs to put their political will together and foster that type of change within the region, because our people need it more than ever now.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Which maybe Alberta, you can answer this next question, because Lachelle is asking, how long do persons believe that policymakers will take to implement necessary laws for this digital revolution? So from your lawyer's perspective, what do you think this will be a long winding process despite discussions have begun?
Well, of course, apart from being a lawyer, I'm also I also did my master's in international trade policy. And policy takes a while to develop. I would say less than 6 months, but there must be a specific intention to ensure that that policy forms part of the legislation. And that is where sometimes we see the divide and the disconnect. To form policy is not the issue. To ensure that it's part of our legislation is where the issue lies. And there is a need for persons who are passionate about a particular sector to push that agenda, because obviously the government has so many different agendas on their plate that they would not always necessarily push a particular agenda. Of course, with informational technology, there is a need for us to push it, particularly in light of us developing our economy. But of course, we would need persons in that sector to really push for it to become part of the legislation. And so I would say, as not only a lawyer, but also a policy specialist, that there is a need for us to ensure that we really push our agenda. To form policy is less than 6 months, really. But for us to ensure that it's part of the legislation is where the disconnect really lies. So it's not that difficult. It's just for us to push that agenda.
Okay. And our last question from Lachelle as well. How do you think we as a Caribbean can do more to spotlight our talent and not allow brain drain? Maybe Eldra, you could answer this one.
Sorry, so I am preserving my bandwidth. It's still in 2021. Still working on internet connection and better broadband. Spotlight talent. As a marketeer, I say we have to talk about it. We have to create platforms and forums so that we do just as we're doing today. And I'd also say we have to move away from the traditional And I call them traditional heroes, the usual folks, the usual say so. It's very nice for us to create opportunities and access to other people with information and insight into information. I'd like to see organizations like yours not only just continue to share the information, but create an initiative along that. So simple things like spotlight this week, spotlight next week. We can move away from paper newsletters and use our internet platforms, our digital marketing platforms to push, promote, and talk about people. But in addition to just talking, I think what we need to do is there was a lot of information that was shared here tonight. So we have to start taking it and acting on it. And I think that's the best way to spotlight talent. They say imitation is the best form of flattery. There's something that you heard here tonight and it works for you. We had a lot of information in terms of careers to pursue if you're an entrepreneur and how you should set up your organization. If you're a policymaker and activist, who you should engage, we have this saying in the Bahamas, write your MP. And I'll say that almost in our dialect, pick up a pen and paper and write. And become the change that you want to see. So I think we have to shift the narrative. We have to shift the discussions and the dialogues, and we have to be more inclusive and less exclusive. Challenge yourself every week and ask, what did you do differently? If you're so passionate about technology and changing the digital divide, ask yourself the question, what did I do? Who did I promote? Who did I talk about? Where did I go to gain access to information, etc.? So I think the change that we want to see begins with us, and we all have a collective responsibility. There's no one organization, no one individual that's going to do that. I think for us, we have to do it. And that's why I like organizations like yours, because it promotes individuality, but a collective path. And so I'd like to encourage us to continue to go on this collective path to see the shift in the Caribbean. So that's my 5 cents, well, more like 10 cents, but change begins with us.
Love it. And
Thank you so much,
perfect note to
Eldra.
end on. And we'd like to thank you. Zwedi just left a message. So he had to run. He said he had to run at 8:15, and he's still here. LG as well. So thank you guys for staying, and thank you everybody for logging on Zoom, on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. We see you all there. We appreciate it. So again, just remember that the purpose of this as well is to really raise awareness for SDM 2021 as well, and for us to continue to have these discussions about the future of work. So again, SDM 2021. I'm just gonna share a video. Alberto, you have anything to add as well?
I just wanted to continue to encourage persons to feel free to message in the group, or you can message James or myself, or of course Miss Eldra, Mackey, Mr. Martin, Hanna, Samantha Prashad, as well as Zwedi Hewitt. We also ask the panelists to also put their information in the chat box, so at least persons who wish to ask you any questions will ask you questions. And honestly, we would just like to say thank you, an immense thank you to Samantha, Eldra, Martin, and Zwedi, who have really contributed significantly. I have been more than passionate about this topic, the future of work, because I believe, particularly in light of COVID, there's a need to move forward and away from the traditional sense of what work really is. And we have seen that more and more with this pandemic. And I would just like to thank the panelists, our SDM ambassadors, Ms. Eldra Ferguson, Mackey, who is the OECS Marketing Manager for Unicoma Limited, Mr. Martin Hanna, who is the founder of Penny Pinch, Samantha Prashad, founder of Trifinity Solutions, and of course, James and I, who are fellow SDM ambassadors. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to our participants. Thank you to all of those who have logged in. And of course, this would not be the last, but we encourage you to follow the OECS SDM, follow the OECS Commission page on Instagram. And of course, we ask that you be part of this movement. We are trying to promote the Sustainable Development Agenda for 2030. And that is really what we are here for. And of course, we would just like to thank everybody once again for that. And James, of course, you can go ahead and share the video for OECS SDM 2021. Thank you.
All right, here we go. You're seeing it, right?
Yes, we
Okay.
can see.
All right, cool.
When man becomes possessor of the knowledge of himself, he becomes master of his environment, the captain of his own ship, the director of his own destiny, the accomplisher of his own ends.
Every voice will be heard, because the men and women who came before us, they chose to stand for love and peace and community for us. In spite of the hurt, in spite of the hardship, against every odd and every stigma and every manner of adversity, they chose to stand. And so we too must stand, and stand tall. As one people, moving together with one voice, saying our time is now. Our place is here, now. Our stories will be told, and oh, they will be beautiful ones. Do you dare to stand?
Thank you so much, James, for that. And we encourage everyone to be part of the movement. The OECS SDM will be taking place in September from the 22nd to the 23rd. And we just ask that everybody form part of this movement. The movement is to promote the Sustainable Development Agenda for 2030, which is the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And we would just like to thank once again our beautiful panelists, our exciting, well-rounded panelists, rather. We'd like to thank our participants and everybody else who has formed part of this. And we would like to encourage you to continue this discussion and further form part of the OECS SDM movement and our summit, which is scheduled for the 22nd to the 23rd of September, 2021. Thank you once again. James, I'm not sure if there's anything you wish to add.
Yeah, that's really it, guys. Thanks for coming. Those of you on Instagram and YouTube will be playing the video afterwards as soon as we end this. All right, guys. So thanks again. We'll be in touch. Those of you who have registered as well, we'll be sending you more information. And thank you to everybody that's sharing their information as well in the chat. All right, make sure you guys copy all of those email address, the LinkedIn addresses, and let's keep in touch. All right. So until the next one, thanks again, guys. Take care.
Thank you and good night. And Junior, of course, you can always sign up for the summit at oecsSDM.com. We would be sharing it in the chat. Have a good night, all. Goodbye. Right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Recording stopped.
When man becomes possessor of the knowledge of himself, he becomes master of his environment, the captain of his own ship, the director of his own destiny, the accomplisher of his own ends.
Every voice will be heard, because the men and women who came before us, they chose to stand for love and peace and community for us. In spite of the hurt, in spite of the hardship, against every odd and every stigma and every manner of adversity, they chose to stand. And so we too must stand, and stand tall. As one people, moving together with one voice, saying our time is now. Our place is here, now. Our stories will be told, and oh, they will be beautiful ones. Do you dare to stand